Good afternoon, members.
Not yet.
I'd like to advise members that the Chair will be joining us later in the proceedings today, and I will be presiding as Chair until that time. Welcome to this digital meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee being held via Microsoft Teams on Wednesday the 16th of March 2022 at 2 o'clock. Just to confirm that this meeting will be recorded and made available to view via the Council's website, except for the discussions involving confidential and exempt items. Therefore, the image/audio of those individuals present and/or speaking will be publicly available to all via the recording on the Council's website at www.caerphilly.gov.uk. If members lose connections during the meeting, please make every attempt to reconnect. However, the meeting will continue as long as there remains in quorum. Committee services staff are available and will be able to assist you to reconnect if necessary. I wish also to remind everybody that the Chair has the discretion to terminate or suspend the recording if, in my opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceedings and that continued recording might infringe the rights of any individual. The Chair also has the right to remove persons from the remote meeting if that is necessary. Can I also remind members to please mute their mics but to leave their cameras on? Can I please ask the officers have their microphones and cameras turned off until they are invited to present their reports or speak on an item? Members and officers should only activate their microphones after the Chair has invited them to speak on an item. Today we'll be using Microsoft Forms for voting on the agenda items, where the voting poll will appear, and then members are asked to click yes, no or abstain, and then click on submit vote. I'd like now to take a roll call of the officers to confirm who's in attendance. So I have some apologies in. Does anyone know of any apologies that haven't been given to me?
Sorry, Nigel. I had a family incident I needed to attend, and I didn't actually make the pre-meeting, so I do apologise.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 apologies. I'll read out the attendance that I think would be here. Could you please confirm your attendance? Start with Mike Adams, Councillor Mike Adams.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Elizabeth Aldworth.
Present, Chair.
Councillor David Hardacre.
Can't remember when he attended one of these.
Oh, right. Okay. Councillor Colin Mann.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Brenda Miles.
Present.
Councillor Theresa Parry.
Present.
Councillor John Ridgewell.
Present.
Councillor Graham Simmons. No. Okay. The Vice Chair is here, Nigel Yates. Can I ask the officers if they would submit their attendance?
Nigel, can I interrupt? Sorry to interrupt you. It's Councillor Julian Simmons. I am here.
Oh,
okay.
Right.
I just couldn't get to the pre-meeting, that's all.
It's all right, that's fine.
Okay,
No, I thought
okay.
I had you down for attending, but I thought you must have failed, but thanks for that.
Okay, thanks, Nigel. That's Julian Simmons, not Graham, okay?
Could I just ask, there are a couple of names that you didn't call out. I assume you've had apologies, John
That's
Belton
right. That's right, yes.
and Stone or whatever.
So it's just
Okay.
if I call a name out and somebody knows that there should be an apology, please let me know.
Thank you.
The officers, Steve Harris,
Yeah, present, Chair, and can I pass on your apologies as well for Richard Edmonds?
Yes, I got that one. Thank you. Lynn Donovan. No. Okay. Deb Gurno.
Present.
Thank you. Lisa Lane. Lisa Lane. I can see you. You're off mute, but I can't hear you. You may have some problem. If you can, yes, I got you. Well, you're trying to speak. I see the indicator going that you made a noise, but I didn't hear it.
Sorry, Chair, can you hear me now? I've unplugged my headphones.
That's it. Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Ross Roberts.
Yes, here, Chair.
Joanna Pierce. Pierce,
Yes,
sorry.
present.
Thank you. And the Audit Wales team is Gareth Jones.
Gareth is not here, Chair.
Okay. That's Mark, I take it then?
Yes, I'm Mark Jones. I'm here.
Thank you. And Bethan Roberts.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Has anyone not had their name called out? Okay, that completes the attendance record. Thank you for that. Can I move on to the declaration of interest? Councillors and officers are reminded that their personal responsibility to declare any personal or prejudicial interests in respect of any items of business on this agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act of 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Please use the hand function to indicate if anyone has any such declarations. No? Okay. So can I move on to the first main item on the agenda? It is the approval of the signing of the minutes for accuracy.
Chair, apologies for butting in. Have we had an apology from the cabinet member as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Right, the minutes. I'll give the page numbers. If anyone has any issues, could they please bring it to my attention? We start with page 1. Page 2. Page 3.
I have a point, Chair. Mark Jones.
Yes, Mark, okay.
It's a small point of detail, and Julie is aware of it to make an amendment. But there's 2 references on page 3 to Miss Jones, but it's actually Miss Roberts. My colleague Bethan Roberts was speaking at the time, so okay. Those 2 references will be corrected, and the officers do know.
Okay, thank you for that, Mark. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. And page 10. Right, could we vote now, please? And the poll will appear on the screen to show the conversation. Click on yes, no, or abstain on the.
You want to move it to the minutes?
Yeah, I'm just going to bring that point up now. If anyone would like to move that these are accurate records.
Yeah, I will move that.
Thank you.
A second, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can we all vote then now, please? I'd like to give my verbal vote, Nigel Yates, that I accept that they are correct.
Chair, I only abstained for the simple reason I wasn't at the last meeting, that's all. Okay.
Okay. I got 7 responses, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's carried, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we move on to the next item, 4, Governance and Audit Committee Forward Work Programme. Steve Harris is to present. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Very briefly, the forward work programme is only currently populated, obviously to confirm the contents of today's meeting and also the forthcoming meeting on the 19th of April. That will obviously take us up to the forthcoming elections. The next meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee will probably then take place in June. And for that meeting, we will share with you an outline plan that will cover the next 12 months that we can discuss in detail at that meeting. And that's all from me. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can we now move, please, that we accept the forward work programme? I'd like to give my verbal vote. Nigel Yates, I'm in agreement. Oh, we had a move.
I will move.
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Councillor Adams.
Second that, Chair.
Thank you. So could we all vote now, please? Okay.
That's carried, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item 5. Audit Wales programme and timetable for Caerphilly County Borough Council. Audit Wales present. I think that must be Mr. Jones.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll pick up page 13 and Bethan will pick up the other pages. But page 13 is quite straightforward. But good news in that since we last met, we've certified all the grants now to time with very little additional reporting to make. So they went very well. And the Blackwood Arts Centre accounts have been certified since you last met. And we've commenced our audit planning for the 21-22 set of accounts, which we're right at the start of that audit. So not much to update you on in terms of our financial audit work, and I'll pass to Bethan.
Thank you. You'll notice that this update is brief because we've not had the position up to the 31st of March from other regulators such as CIW and Estin. So that's why this briefing is, this update is briefer than your usual one to the committee. There's not much to update you on in terms of the performance audit work since we last met, but we are still in the middle of the field work for the Springing Forward workforce piece of work that we're doing, concluding on the field work this week, hopefully, and then we can get on to drafting the report. We have confirmed with the council that we are doing the homelessness project. We're just scheduling that in for Q1, dependent on resources. But other than that, quite a brief update for you this time. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Chair, I did indicate earlier.
Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to page 13.
Page 13, that's right. Yeah, I've got you down for a question on page 13.
Yeah, Mark. I think, Mark, is the Art Centre separate from Blackwood Miners? I think, is that the case?
It's the same thing. The official name is, Steve will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the Blackwood Arts Centre, but it also goes by the name of the Blackwood Miners.
So it's what most of us know as Blackwood Miners then.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you give us an idea of what the qualification was about, please?
Yes, I'll call it the Miners Institute, but it receives, it receives monies, trade and activity monies through the year, income, expenditure at the centre. So it has cash flows. And the audit established that in terms of the accounts, the cash flows weren't being shown through the accounts as we saw they should be, and the statement of the year-end balance at the bank stroke cash. Therefore, there was a partial qualification of the accounts in saying that everything is fine except for. And the officers are working on this issue to correct it for 21-22 accounts, which will be auditing later this calendar year. So it will be corrected for the next year's accounts, and we will reconsider the underlying issue at that point. Steve might want to come in and say some points on this. I'm not sure.
Do you want to come in, Steve?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to confirm what Mark has said, all of the transactions for BMI go through the local authority's ledger at the present time. So that's all this is about, really, is keeping those transactions separately and reporting those cash balances separately. We've agreed to do that going forward, and that work is underway. This is the first time the issue has been raised with us. In the previous 5 years with Grant Thornton, they were happy with the way that we were presenting those accounts and the cash position. Having said that, Mark and his team have picked this up with us, and that's fine. We've taken that on board and accepted the recommendation, and we will ensure that those changes are made for the next set of accounts.
Thank you, Steve. All we need to do, we don't vote on this. We just take the recommendation and make note of the report. Thank you. Can I move on to item 7, the corporate risk register?
Sorry, Chair, I didn't know if Lisa was doing update on complaints first.
No, right. Have I missed something out of my?
I'm quite.
Oh, yes, I have. Sorry. Complaints. Yes, I skipped it one. Yes. Yeah, Lisa's going to speak on this. Is that right? Yeah.
That's right, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you give us your report now, please?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Members, you will be aware that the purpose of the report is to provide you with a 6-monthly update on the complaints dealt with under the corporate complaints policy for the period the 1st of April last year until the end of September, together with an overview and outcomes of the lessons learnt. Members will be aware that the Local Government and Elections Wales Act has bestowed on this committee the role of reviewing and assessing the authority's ability to handle complaints effectively. Members will also note that the Public Services Ombudsman Guidance for Wales also suggests the Cabinet considers the data, and Cabinet will receive a report in the coming months. By way of background, members will see that a new draft policy was implemented by Cabinet on the 1st of April last year. Prior to that, this committee considered and gave comments on the draft policy before it was implemented. The policy isn't dissimilar to the policy we've had since 2013. It has a 2-stage process, with the right then for a complainant to go to the Ombudsman if they remain dissatisfied with the response. However, we have placed greater emphasis on the way we record contacts, with over 80 staff receiving training on complaints handled by the Ombudsman this year. To further assist with our complaints process, we're also working with digital services and an external partner on an implementation of a new complaint system. This is set out in the report, and members will be aware that we will be hopefully undertaking some test training in the coming months. The aim of this process then is to help streamline controls and improve our data records so that we can easily identify trends and lessons learned, use the data needed for complaints reports. Members, turning to specific data, you will note that the format of this particular report has changed in that there's a lot more detail in the appendices attached to the report, where each directorate, so it's the Economy and Environment Directorate, Social Services, Housing, Corporate Services and Education, have provided a lot more in-depth detail into the complaints that they've dealt with, how they've come in, whether they're upheld and not upheld, and lessons learnt. Officers would welcome members' feedback on the level of detail included in the report, or whether members would wish to see any additional detail. And I will take that information back then to our Learning from Complaints group, which is an officer group which obviously manages, discusses and works on ways forward to improve our complaints handling process. So as a group, we do continue to work on ways to promote the complaints process. Members, obviously I won't go through it in any detail in the appendices, but if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. There's a question from Councillor Aldworth, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, Lisa, for this report. I'm just wondering where in the report it could possibly feature when this is a housing directorate complaint that went to mediation. Where can that be featured in reporting back complaints? And what happens when mediation, even though it's been planned, doesn't go ahead? This particular mediation query I have is between a council tenant and the other party was private leaseholder, and the agreement for mediation was a joint decision. They would both cooperate, and then the council tenant withdrew, even though they were both told that there would be penalties, because this mediation costs approximately £300 to run, and yet the council tenant now is withdrawn, and only a letter to the other complainant has given details that the council tenant doesn't want to participate anymore. Is that going to feature in these kind of reports, Lisa? And where is the training here with our officers, please?
Councillor Osworth, I'm not aware of that particular matter. It may be that it didn't fall under the complaints process, so it may be that it was dealt with as a separate sort of process between the parties. But I can certainly seek some information from my colleagues in housing and come back to members as to the reasons perhaps why it's not included in this report, or whether matters like that should be included in the future.
Thank you, because it does mention antisocial behaviour as a complaint, and what is it in the report? There was no, there was no complaints then. No, I've lost the page. So I'm just wondering, if I give you more information, you will examine this, but I would like to see if things are going to mediation, that they are reported somewhere along the line. Because obviously it's quite serious when it goes to this stage. And if there is a cost implication, I think we should have it in some form of writing, and how many, and, even if it's not a lot of detail, at least it's acknowledged by the Audit and Governance Committee, please.
Yeah, I'll certainly take that back to our complaints group. In terms of training, we've had obviously training with the Ombudsman. We're also formulating our own training document, which we are hoping to launch internally with officers as well. So there'll be something to supplement the Ombudsman's training, because obviously the Ombudsman time is at a premium. But we will look to undertake some more training with the Ombudsman as and when we're able to make those arrangements.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I've got one, Lisa. On page 40, it's to do with no mutual exchange. I'm not the person who's raising the question, I'm just passing it on to you. There seems to be a problem where there was a mutual agreement about an exchange, but after somebody spent money and time and effort to process this, they were told that they couldn't then go forward with it. So there seems to be a no recompense or any sort of procedure that would then resolve that issue where the one person has been disadvantaged due to the uncompleted exchange.
Yeah, again, I can ask for some more context and background to that particular complaint. I can update members then on that.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I have no other further questions, Lisa, so thank you very much for your presentation.
Sorry, I got my hand up.
No, sorry. Yes, thank you, Councillor Miles.
It wasn't a question, actually. Only Lisa asked for some feedback on the detail in the report, and I just wanted to say I think the report's really good, actually, and it really does give us a good idea of the types of complaints that are coming in. But I also really like the lessons learned section in there as well. So that would be my feedback. A great report. Thanks very much for putting it together.
Thank you, Councillor Myers. I'll feed that back to our complaints group. We're meeting on Friday, so I'll let them know. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Miles. No more hands up now, so we can move on now. Item 7, the risk register. Ross Roberts, I think, and Joanne Pierce is to present.
Thank you, Chair. Afternoon, members. Yes, this is a standing item, and the risk register was last updated by the corporate management team in December. So it's due for an update shortly. So there may be a couple of mitigating actions I'm sure that we would tell you about that need to be expanded a little bit. I'm just scrolling down from the complaints one. There we go. So there are 15 risks at the moment on the risk register, and the recommendation, the main one for this session, is to remove the risk on Brexit. So there are still impacts, but they fall into other areas. We've got, I draw your attention to paragraph 5.4 because that's where it explains if there's been any movement, any new risks, anything that's sort of moved from medium to high and so on. Although I think you will get more information from the actual register. And I believe you've got an A3 version because as Councillor Parry knows, they're sort of working on trying to make this larger as it comes onto the screen. So just to go through, I think the risk, I suppose the only thing I wanted to mention really was that at the moment we've got a couple of new risks on, and you'll see those on the actual register and may want to sort of discuss the actual content of it. But other than that, most of the risks have remained roughly the same, but we are, say, due for an update in shortly in a couple of weeks. So it's really to hand over to say if you agree with the Brexit risk being removed now at this point, and if you have any questions on the content. And I see Stephen wants to come in. Do you want to?
Steve.
Yeah, Chair, if I can just come in very briefly. As Ross said, this is a snapshot based on a CMT discussion in December. However, it would be remiss of me not to mention the impacts that we're seeing in terms of the cost of living at the moment, increases in inflation, impacts on household budgets, etc. Clearly exacerbated by the tragic events in Ukraine at the present time as well. And there will be significant risks there in terms of impacts on the supply chain, etc. So I just want to reassure you that the cost of living crisis and impacts from Ukraine are high on the agenda at the moment, are being discussed by the corporate management team and with Cabinet. And when you see the next iteration of this risk register, you will see those two risks added as well. I just thought I needed to make that point. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councillor Colin Mann has a few comments to make on item 7, I believe, and item 8.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's the CRRO 07, the school attainment. I mean, this is something which, as a lot of us will know, has been going on for a heck of a long time. And I know there's probably nobody here. I think Ed Edmonds has given an apology. So whether there's anyone here who can make a comment, I'm not sure. But it's the old question of children who get school meals and don't get school meals, and you know, I can remember this going back for a very long time, and you know, we're still here with a high risk on it. And could I also say, Chair, that thanks to whoever sent out the hard copy, unfortunately, it was still very small print, and it wasn't in colour, so it's partly useful, shall I say?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Councillor Mann, for that. I've got a hand up, I think, yes, Councillor John.
Is there any comment, Chair, anyone? Yeah.
I'll just come in and comment briefly. Councillor Mann, I'm wearing glasses today as well because I can hardly read this, but there we are. Yeah, unfortunately, Ed isn't able to be with us today, but I'll pick that up with him outside the meeting, Councillor Mann, and ask for a bit of a general update on where we're going next in terms of the educational attainment. So I'll pick that up as an action from the meeting.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I got a hand up for Councillor John Ridgewell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Steve, if we could just come back to your point made about the events in Ukraine. I mean, clearly it's a rapidly moving situation. I'm just wondering when the next iteration of this will be published, or whether there's going to be an interim report if events change very, very quickly and have an impact directly.
Yeah, I mean, this will be picked up through directorate risk registers as well, because obviously at a directorate level it will be having an impact. And they are live, those DPAs, as we call them, directorate performance assessments. So they will be updated. They get shared with CMT, they get shared with scrutiny committees, etc. But you're right, Councillor Ridgewell, this is a very fast-moving environment at the moment. But just to reassure you that officers are working extremely hard on all these issues, including housing potential, people displaced from Ukraine, etc. So all of those things are being looked at, and I'm sure that updates will be provided to members on the key events.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I've got a question for Liz Aldworth, Councillor Liz Aldworth, on item number 5.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was in relation to the ash dieback and the astonishing amount of trees identified. And I wondered if you'd had any news of financial support to assist in removing these trees, which seem to be alongside our road areas. So it's going to cause a lot of disruption when obviously they come to dispose of these trees. So have you had any news of any finances to help, Steve, please?
I'm not aware of any new finance announcements on the finances recently, but you will be aware that Council did agree to put £750,000 into reserves to help us deal with ash dieback, and we will be spending £250,000 each year for the next 3 years. And there may be an opportunity, depending on our outturn position, that if we need more funding, that we can look to earmark some more at the end of the current financial year as well.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
I've got a hand up for Councillor Conley Mann.
Thank you, Chair. Back to the appendix, CRR 7, the fragility of the social care market. Again, whether there's anyone here who can answer it, I don't know, but it's a bit pointless having these things on if there's not. The worrying thing there is the comment in red at the end where the risk level is deemed to be high over the medium term. I think a lot of us are aware of the issue with social care workers. It's really a case of what is being done and what can be done about it, really.
Would you like me to pick that one up, Chair?
Yes, please.
If you cast your minds back to the budget report in February, we did set aside £5.7 million to address issues within social care, not least of which is the fragility of the market and the need to ensure, obviously, that we can make sure that the independent sector providers are adequately funded. So a report is in the process of being prepared. It will be proposing fee increases across the various sectors, and you will see that in due course. And that will obviously take up a significant element of the growth that we have set aside. So the funding's there, the commitment is there, obviously, to fund the real living wage as well. So in the coming weeks, you will see that report starting to move its way through into Cabinet.
And would you see that actually making a difference, Stephen?
I think it will. I think the proposed increases will be significant, but I don't think this will be an issue just for the 1 year. I think we will need to look at some fairly substantial increases, certainly over the next 2 to 3 years.
So that is why we got the comment on red in red on there, yeah?
Yep, and of course the other big factor here is that we did receive a lot of money through the WG COVID-19 Hardship Fund for the sector. That's been officially withdrawn at the end of March, but it will be interesting to see what other grant funding we may get during the year. Nothing has been confirmed at this stage, but I would expect that there will be some grant funding coming through as well to help us address these issues.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Okay, Councillor John Ridgewell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to come back to the point that I think it was Liz made about the ash dieback and that to total of 350,000 trees, I think it was. Is there anybody here who can give us an idea of where these trees are? I'm assuming they're just the trees that are potentially hazardous in terms of, where they are, along roadsides, etc. And I just wonder whether there was any further information on that was available this afternoon. It's not critical for me now, but I'd just like to know.
The only thing I can confirm, Councillor Ridgewell, is the money that is available will be targeted at those priority areas that you've just mentioned. But I'm not able to offer any more information than that. But again, more than happy to ask Mike Headington to give us a bit of an update on that, which I can circulate to you.
Yeah.
That'd be great, Steve. Thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I've got a question that I think Steve could answer. It's regarding the why the fleet has gone from medium to high.
Sorry,
I was going to say I'll pass to Ros for that one because Ros will be closer to that than me.
Okay.
Yes, well, it's interesting because the last the new risk about retention and recruitment is part of this one. So the service are struggling, as are other services, with recruitment and retention. The private sector for fitters pay sort of considerably more, but there are other underlying areas. I think all authorities are struggling to get apprentices to come in. It's not an area that has the volume of work anymore. They do put work out to private sector, which is not ideal. They want to have a full complement of mechanics and stuff, but they're just not able at the moment to get the capacity in to maintain the fleet. So from December, Steve, the part that Steve will be familiar with is that a market supplement has been agreed to pay extra for the post. And there's quite a lot of good work going on to improve the recruitment and retention. But at the moment, I think one of the very experienced supervisors retired, boy and man mechanic, 50 years, is retired, and it's finding the right sort of capacity and wages and stuff to replace that role. So that's why I think they've moved the risk up from medium to high. So although the operational side has moved down to medium, the recruitment and capacity side has moved the risk back up to high.
Thank you, Rose. Could I ask you if you find that the movement in the private sector can make be a problem for council situations where there's a structure to the pay, where private entities can move in and increase pay that they want to offer these new candidates and new employees? You find that's a problem?
I think it is specifically I'm not sure, there must be other areas like IT and so forth, but certainly in the world of mechanics and engineering, private sector have paid more for quite a long time, but it's becoming more prevalent now, although we have other advantages, whether it's the pensions, the stability and so forth, but certainly in the wages it's become more the gap seems to have widened in the last sort of year or two with supply and demand.
Thank you. Steve Harris, you have a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on something else that Rosa just alluded to. She's mentioned the wider recruitment issues. It's not just Fleet. Obviously, we are experiencing issues across the council at the present time. A report is being prepared currently for the Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee, which will give more context around this and the steps that the council is looking to take. And I just wanted to bring to your attention that this week we've launched a new presence on the website in terms of recruitment. Might be worth you having a look at that. It's gone live. We've been doing some work with Careers Wales and colleague Gwent. We're looking now to launch our apprenticeship programme, so there's details of that on there as well. So I just wanted to share with you that things are happening, and a lot of this will be set out in a bit more detail when the report is prepared for the Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. I've got a couple of hands up. Can you tell me if they are old hands or new hands? I got Councillor Colin Mann and I got Councillor John Ridgewell.
Well, mine's a continuing hand, Chair, is probably the best. Sorry, I had to go and answer the door, so I missed a couple of minutes. Are you still on CRR 11? To do with the fleet?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay, I thought you were, but I just wanted to check. I mean, that is, some of the headlines on that risk are quite worrying, aren't they? You know, none of us want to see a heavy lorry go in the wrong direction, whoever owns it. So I don't know what the real risk is of something going out which is not roadworthy. Hopefully nil. But when you read the way that's set up, it is quite worrying. And I also read that the report on progress is due to be considered by CMT in January 2022. I assume that means it already has been considered. And I was wondering if there's any update from that.
Sorry, Steve, you've got your hand up, so I didn't know if you...
Sorry, my hand is up from before, but
legacy
hand. No, I'm aware that reports have been presented to CMT. Councillor Mann, this has been looked at as well through the transformation programme. There is a service review which is nearing completion in this area. And I don't know whether you picked up what Ross was saying about the fact that we have agreed a market supplement for some of the posts now to try and attract candidates.
No, I didn't.
But I believe it is being regularly reviewed by the corporate management team and through the transformation board. I can try and get you some more details on that if you would like me to. But again, we'll share that with you outside the meeting if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks. No, I was busy receiving some paper off Mark Harris,
okay.
who just happened to come at the time. So I mean, going back to number 1 and number 2 on there, well, all of them really. I assume there is no. I would like to think there is no chance of us sending out anything which is not roadworthy. Is that correct?
That would certainly be the position we're working to, Councillor Mann. And you may recall we have recently purchased some new equipment in the workshop as well. That was agreed by Council last year, some new investments. And, just to reassure you, all of these issues are being taken very seriously, as you would expect. And as I said, there are regular updates being provided on progress to the corporate management team and the programme board. But I'll find the most recent update and we'll issue a summary of where we are. I'm sure myself and Ross can do that outside the meeting for you.
Okay. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you both. Councillor John Ridgewell, I think you still have a hand up for a question.
Yeah. If I can come back to Stephen Ross's point about the market supplement, as we're all aware, I mean that can have ramifications across the whole of the workforce in terms of salaries, can't it? So I mean, there are issues connected with that. And I was reassured by your point Steve made about where things are going here. One of the things that was raised last night at Housing and Regeneration was the retention of particularly the new apprentices, because quite clearly we don't want to be in a position where we're training people up and in 4 or 5 years time they're off to somewhere pastures new where they're going to get greater salaries. So I'm guessing that's going to be part of the report you're going to be putting together. But I wonder if you've got anything you could share with us at this stage on how that might be dealt with.
I mean, obviously, in the ideal world, investing in an apprenticeship programme, we'd like to think that these people will stay with us. And there are some examples already through the previous programmes where people have managed to secure permanent roles. There's one in my area we did have an audit apprentice who has now actually achieved a grade 7 post. So that's been great for us. So, you know, the intention is that we can show the value of working to Caerphilly. We can show a commitment to invest in learning and development for these individuals. And hopefully, Councillor Ridgewell, that will convince them that Caerphilly is the right place to work in for their futures.
As if they needed convincing, but yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you both for that. Any more questions on risk assessment? Is that right? Councillor Mann, no, you got your hand up?
Yeah, it's number 14, Chair, about the Microsoft support. Any more comment on that one? I mean, Microsoft do seem to withdraw things quite often, don't they? And put all sorts of organisations in a difficult position.
In terms of the risk, Councillor Mann, I don't think there's anything imminent. What we are looking to do, though, is with some of our critical systems, for example, some of the finance systems, where we currently host those within our data centre, to ensure that they're more resilient in the future, we will be looking to move some of these products onto the cloud. That will give us more resilience, and also it will improve the security of some of these critical applications as well. So just to assure you, the IT strategy has taken us in that direction, and will hopefully address some of the risks that have been raised in the risk register.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I've got one more, please. If
yeah.
It's the, well, I think it has been touched on a couple of times, but I don't know if we went to the particular item. It's number 16, to do with appointment of staff in key positions. Well, as we've been hearing, it's not just key positions. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a statement was made in the scrutiny last night that there were something like 59 unfilled posts in WHQS, or certainly in the housing area. So I mean, that I think that is serious by anyone's terms, and it's really, and I think the authority, we failed to appoint someone to a senior role quite recently, as some people will know. So there are issues there, and it's really a case of, you know, when can we see a change? Because obviously, with so many vacant posts, it's impossible to provide a service, which is what the organisation is here for.
Yeah, if I can just come back on that. Yeah, the wording says key positions, but you know, ultimately we don't want vacancies in any areas. So so it is a general problem across a number of areas within the council. We're not unique, and this is being experienced by other organisations as well. You know, there's a lot of competition for posts at the moment, and employment levels are very high. You know, but we're in a situation at the same time where there's a large number of vacancies across various sectors. Just to remind you what I said earlier, though, there will be a report coming through the Policy and Resources Scrutiny Committee, and I know a number of you are on that committee, so you'll see that report setting out, you know, the extent of the problems and what steps were taken to address them. And if I can just remind you again, have a look at the website, because there is a new recruitment presence on there. And again, that is designed to try and attract candidates to come to work for Caerphilly Council. So I'd urge you to have a look at that as well. But the main thing is the report for P&R scrutiny is being prepared and will be presented in due course.
But thanks, Steve. My understanding is that people are leaving and are not being, well, it's been impossible to replace them. As anyone, it could have been useful to have had Lynn Donovan on here for this, but is there a track being kept of where they're going and why? I mean, I think we do
exit surveys.
We do an exit survey. I couldn't think of the words then. Thanks, Ross.
Yeah, it's I'm you know, we do the exit interviews, so you know, I'm sure that Lynn will be a key contributor to the report that's being prepared, and I'm sure that she can cover off some of the reasons why people are leaving the organisation. So I'm happy to raise that with her and make sure that's addressed in the report as well.
When is the report due, sorry?
I'm not sure the exact date. It's I just understand it's being prepared at the present time.
Sorry, just to come in, I had a message that it will be available from late March. So
All right.
very much in the
weeks.
public domain.
Okay, that's before we're up for the chop then.
I think also if this is a risk that sort of continues to grow and different progress happens, sometimes it's quite useful, isn't it, to invite someone to your committee to talk specifically on that risk. So if it's something that really, you know, continues in a big way, then maybe it'd be useful to have some, you know, invite someone like Lynn to come and talk specifically to that.
Well, it'd be nice to think that those things are arranged so people are in the committee, because we do quite often, unfortunately, get instances where questions are posed and there's not a relevant person there to actually answer the question. So, yeah, obviously, we would need a relevant person there, wouldn't we? Thank you, Ros.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Chair.
Any more questions on risk? I haven't seen any hands up, so I assume that's it. Can somebody move then, please, that we accept this report?
Move the report,
I'll
Chair.
move.
Somebody second?
Second, Chair.
Thank you. Can we now vote, please, to accept this report with your system? Can I give my verbal vote? Nigel Yates accepts the report.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you for that. That's carried then. Can we now move on to the next item, which is item 8, which is the regulatory proposal for improved progress update. Ross, I think you were on again.
Yeah, that's me again. Another standing item where twice a year you look at any proposals or suggestions for improvement or statutory recommendations, and to see how we're progressing with those and whether they're making, you know, a difference. So I think the last time you had an update on this was, as the report mentions, was in July. We've got 11 items on the register. We think 4 are completed now, but that always comes over to you as to whether you agree that or not. Sometimes you know, want something to have more information on it, but we're asked, that's what we think. There are 4 completed at the moment, which leaves 7. In 2.3, what we're saying is we haven't received any further reports from Audit Wales or our other regulators at this time, so there's no more additional pieces to work to add. Although you heard Bethan talk earlier about the quite a lot of work that they've done regarding managing assets and transformation and workforce, how that's managing transformation, and the field work is complete and the key messages are coming through. So I've mentioned that in paragraph 5.7, where it gives you an update, sorry, 5.9 for the future work. But at this moment, there isn't anything additional from the last time. So draw your attention to 5.1, which just gives the numbers, you know, an overall snapshot of the numbers that are left on the register. And 5.2 onwards gives you more detail around those pieces of work. You know, for me, it's not so much about the numbers, it's always, you know, about the quality of how that's working, and that's will be on the appendices. So 5.6 and 5.7 just talk through what the other work of the regulators are that we know at this moment in time, anything future planned. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the future work. So really it's to hand over to you, the register, to see if you've got any questions about specifically what's on that, or anything else really around the regulator proposal work.
Anybody any questions? No? I've got something which was mentioned about delivering good governance on the page, the report 57 and 56. I can't remember what the question was, but it was something that we discussed yesterday, Rose. I don't know if you remember it.
I do remember looking at the good governance, but not what the specific Let me just find 25. Oh, no, so just have a look. Sorry, councillor, no,
Okay.
It says on there, the graphics on page something show the reader how the plans connect. There's no page number.
Oh,
Chair, may I interject a moment? I think I'd made some notes of the meeting yesterday, and I think it was Councillor Sargent. She what she said that she wanted some clarification in regard to the Appendix A because she didn't fully understand it. So I haven't got any more details, but that was what Councillor Sargent's query was.
Yeah, I didn't get the actual query, but I knew there was a problem with it, but I haven't the, well, maybe we'll have to let that one go for now and pick it up next time. Are there any more questions now on the report from Ros?
Well, could somebody clarify what page we're referring to, Chair?
yes, apologies, councillor Mann. I think the actual proposal for improvement at the time was that our regulators were saying there were lots of different plans. There's a public service born plan, regeneration strategy, and it would be useful if there was something that showed how that fitted together, or you tried to put it together into one strategy. I think we felt because the different strategies were written for different audiences at different times and for different purposes, to put that all into one thing could be quite complex. So the corporate plan, which is on the council's internet, was revised late last year, and we put in some more information and graphics to show how all these things connected, because it can be quite, you know, complex with different strategies for different things. So we spent quite a lot of time doing the illustrations. So apologies, but page 5, section 3 is of the corporate plan, which isn't attached here because it's, you know, it's quite a big document, but I can send you that link.
Okay, thanks. So I was thinking it was some page in these documents.
Yeah, I see that could be deceptive now. Yeah,
okay.
it means the corporate plan, just to draw your attention.
Thanks, Ros.
Okay, if there's no more questions, can we move to vote, please? On
Could I ask, Chair, whether the officers are happy with the progress that we're making on these? There are some only half complete and so on, you know.
Sorry, Coach, should I come in there? I'm happy with the progress on quite a few of those, and there's quite a few that have complete, and there are quite a few that really were quite long term. There are one or two, I mean, Councillor Mann, who maybe what you referred to, that are quite long and old standing because things changed, and even the workforce one, for example, there's so many changes to that being completed from the pandemic and before that. And now, you know, I say Audit Wales are picking up on the workforce element regarding transformation. So that one's made slow progress. So it would be good to see that one, you know, start to conclude more. It's 75%, but it would be good to see that. But that has always been a moving area. We just talked about recruitment earlier and retention, skills, training, learning. So we have a new workforce manager who's doing some good work on getting implemented those strategies, induction and all those areas. So I really would like to, that's something that will always be ongoing, but as that discrete piece of work, I would really like to see that sort of come to a conclusion later in the year. But I think the other ones by and large have done quite well.
Yeah, P3 on decision making is 50%, for example.
Looking at P3.
It's the one underneath the one that Nigel just mentioned.
Oh, the delivering good governance.
Yeah, under delivering good governance, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that one's quite a broad one about improving the quality of evaluation and outcome data, delivery priorities. I mean, I don't, just having a look at the update there, we've just had the WLGA have got a gentleman who's done some work around what other authorities do regarding decision making and how they evidence that. And that's just come through to us last week to sort of get that comparator. We're also doing quite a bit of work on measures, outcome measures, and we've had several workshops around the corporate reviews about how we measure it, not just sort of PIs and targets, but quality of life, savings, productivity. So we've pulled together some measures there from the workshops, and that's an ongoing piece of work we hope to conclude early in the summer, so that there will be a range of how do you evaluate if this is making a difference, because I think that's the spirit of you know, the proposal that the Audit Wales made at the time when they were looking at our general governance. So it has been difficult booking up different workshops with different things going on and doing it online in Teams, but we are making progress now on pulling together that information.
So there, just one other, if I could mention, Chair. Sorry, the financial sustainability. Sorry, Teresa's got her hand up. I don't know whether it's about the same one.
I'll come in after you, Colin. That's fine.
Okay, on the financial sustainability assessment, we're sort 40% along the road. Well, on that one and the next one, we've actually got the man here whose name is on it. So
yeah, more than happy to pick that up. These are new recommendations. Obviously, they came through around the middle of last year. But really, it's to emphasise what Ros said. Some of these are going to be dealt with over the medium to longer term. We've obviously set the budget for 22-23. We refreshed the MTFP at that point in time, but recognised obviously that there's a potential financial gap of around £9.7 million that would need to be addressed for 23-24 and 24-25. Clearly, there's a lot of work still to do in the background to refresh the MTFP again, and we've committed now to bring a further report through the Cabinet in the autumn. But by that time, we want to also identify how our ongoing transformation programme will realise financial benefits that can help us deal with the financial gap. And also, we'll have a lot more detail around, you know, emerging cost pressures and the, you know, the situation we're facing currently that I explained earlier, the fallout of the crisis in Ukraine, all the inflationary impacts that we continue to see, all of that will have to be considered in the coming months. So, you know, we're not at a point where we can put progress around the 70-80% mark. It's just a recognition there's still much to do. But by the autumn, I would anticipate that we'd be in a much stronger position in terms of how we're going to address the financial gap moving forward. And those percentages against those recommendations will increase at that time.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Teresa Parry.
Thank you. I just wanted to say to Ros, I was really pleased when the risk register came through the post as a hard copy, at least even with the help of my magnifying glass, I was able to read it. But we have a similar problem here with Appendix A. Okay, so you know, would help if we're going to get anything like an A3. It does come in a hard copy form. I think everybody, you know, it struggles with that, whether they've got good eyesight or not. It's just the smallness of the print.
Yeah, you're right. It is a challenge because the actual font size when you produce it is quite large, but then when it gets changed to the PDF, it's quite small. And you can zoom it, but you can never see the whole page. And I know you've got a big screen, Councillor Parry. It's a 21-inch, I remember, but you
21-inch.
You have to shift across. You can't see it all in one, and I think that's.
Yes, it still doesn't fit in the bigger screen if you enlarge it.
I don't know whether it needs a sort of a rethink on the whole layout that is presented and the way it's presented, you know. I don't know whether, because it seems to be, the more reports are coming out now, like the latest one on the progress report, it all seems to go in the same direction. I don't know whether we should maybe somebody have a look at it. And is there any other way we can do it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm going to show off now and say I don't have a problem at all with it. All I do when we get down to those parts of the is go up to the top, expand it. I'm now looking at 150% and I'm scrolling along fine. It's not a problem. Honestly, get to know your equipment.
Yeah,
thank you.
Bigger,
Thank you for that.
Sorry, Councillor Micah Adams. Because it's a PDF, it's not as if it's an ordinary. We don't have the magnifying glass and it can't open.
No, sorry, I don't have a problem. I got
and I went through this with Roz.
Yeah.
So it does enlarge, but it doesn't all fit on the screen then. So you've got to
No,
do.
just so you've got to scroll back and forth. It really is simple.
Strange enough, Mike, that's what I'm doing, but it's a pain.
Yes, okay.
You just got to.
Oh well, we'll tackle this another day then. Now can we look at the recommendations for this report? And the 4 proposals are recommendations be closed down as completed and encourage members to view the specific proposals attached with Appendix A and judge if they agree that these are now complete. It is recommended that the Governance and Audit Committee give their agreement, if appropriate, to close the proposals that are noted as completed within Appendix A. So can I have a vote that we accept that recommendation, please?
Sorry, Chair. Is it implied that we revisit the ones that aren't completed? I assume it is.
I would think so, because they're not mentioned in the actual recommendation.
It's only the 11.
Chair, move officers' recommendations.
Anyone second?
I'll second.
Okay, can you now vote, please? Can I give my verbal vote? Nigel Yates agrees with the recommendation.
That's carried, Chair.
Thank you very much for being carried. Can I move on to item number 9, which is the update on tracking and agreed audit report recommendations. So is Deb going to talk on this one?
Thank you. Good afternoon, members. This is a relatively new report that we are now planning to bring to the committee on a regular basis. The report gives the
sorry, Chair, have we done number 8?
Oh.
Oh.
That was number 8. That was number 8.
We're on.
Well, I thought we were on 7 before, the corporate risk register. No?
No, we'd done that.
No, we've done that.
Okay. Well, yeah. I said I was confused, Chair.
Senior moment, Colin. Senior moment.
Okay, Deb, could you carry on, please?
Okay, thank you. Okay. As I said, this is a relatively new report that we're planning to bring to the committee now on a regular basis. This report gives our position as at February. So all our work now is undertaken via the Pentana MK system. This allows us to create and track our recommendations and follow up on progress with officers, etc. So as we undertake the audits, we identify risk issues, which we call findings. We have created 746 of these to date. These are risk rated as per protocol previously agreed by a committee. In 2018, I think, it's as per the appendix attached. Numbers and risk ratings are shown in the table and the chart in 5.8. We also class the progress of these depending on whether the audit is complete, incomplete, if the report has been drafted, if it's been issued to managers, if it's come back to us as approved, etc. And that is shown in 5.9. When managers receive the reports, we then ask them to agree actions to mitigate the risks or issues that we've identified in our findings. We ask that they nominate a named officer and an expected completion date, obviously sometime in the future. That is up for discussion with ourselves, but basically the higher the risk, the shorter the time scale you'd expect that to be implemented. Obviously with COVID, there have been some allowances given to the processes because of the pressures that have been experienced on establishments and locations on workload, etc. Then we can monitor the completion, because as we update them, we can mark them off as completed and we put a completion date into our system. We monitor the completion and the progress, and that's shown in the tables and charts on 513 and 514. So that's it really in a nutshell. So I wonder whether there are any questions.
Any hands up? I've got one. I assume then the draft report not issued is lying on your desk.
Not necessarily, no. The way the audits are conducted, as the programme, which is a series of questions or tests, as each one of those is actually actioned, then depending on whether there's any findings, that is created at that point in time. So that can be well before the final report is issued. So as the audit progresses, the findings are created and they sit there as draft until a whole audit work, the field work, has been completed. So yeah, they may seem that they may sit there for a period of time until the very last aspect has been addressed and the audit has been completed. So yes, some of those can look like there's a lot of them, or they can be held in draft for what appears to be a period of time, but that's the duration of the time that audit is being taken to conclude.
So how do you differentiate between in progress then and not issued?
Right, well, in progress will mean that the report's actually gone out. Okay, we've had some conversations
right, so
this
you've
within
gone
the
to stage
team.
one then, is
So
it?
we've got some criteria that this is what it means. So the staff, you go in and you can highlight your own recommendations on your own work that you've conducted, and as they make progress, you can mark them off. So if you've got a series of recommendations and the report goes out, you move them then from draft to in progress.
Right. Okay,
so
thank you for that.
you can get large numbers will move from one status to another. Well, I mean, it depends obviously on some audits we do, there are no recommendations because there are, everything's fine. It varies, but if you've got a lot of not findings, they can move in bulk, so your numbers can change, on a really, they're very dynamic.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Any more questions on this? No? Okay. What we got on this is there's no vote, but we recommended to take it as information. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that concludes the meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for attending this afternoon's Governance and Audit Committee, and I declare this meeting now closed. Thank you, everybody.